All right, we talked with Republican Congressman Ron DeSantis before the break, fair and balanced. Let's talk now with New York Democratic Congressman Eliot Engel, ranking member on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to start with you with Iraq. What do you make of the situation there and whether we should or shouldn't be getting involved at some level?
Well, obviously the situation there is a dire situation, and we need to get involved at some level, although I'm not for boots on the ground. But we cannot allow a terrorist organization like ISIS to have free reign, to have no man's land. We went through that once before with Afghanistan. When the Russians were thrown out of Afghanistan, we walked away, and for years you had the Taliban allowing Al-Qaeda to group, and the result was we got September 11th, 2001. We cannot allow the same thing to happen in Iraq. If there is this terrorist group and they're strong and they're disorderly, we don't need them to be planning attacks on the U.S. mainland. We need to disrupt them, and that's why in my opinion, we just cannot look the other way. But we have to be smart, we have to be careful. We don't want to get bogged down into another land war. You know, it just breaks my heart when you think that there are 4,400 Americans who lost their lives in Iraq, and we spent $1 trillion, and a lot of the financial difficulties we're having now stems directly from that war, which was not paid for. It just breaks my heart. So I think we've got to be smart and careful. It's not black and white. We've got to be incremental, but we need to give this our attention.
Yeah, it's tough to imagine how the families and the loved ones of those who were lost in that conflict must be feeling right now watching this playing out. I want to ask you about a response to Congressman DeSantis' comments with regard to Iran and the suggestion by people, frankly, across the ideological spectrum that we should be having some kind of conversations or pseudo-alliance with them with regard to Iraq. Your colleague across the aisle seemed to think that that was a very bad idea. Where do you stand on that?
I think it's a very bad idea. I don't trust the Iranians. I wouldn't want anything to do with them. They are bad players. They are the leading supporters of terrorism throughout the world. The reason why Assad in Syria, who murders his own people, is winning, it's because Iran allowed its terrorist proxy Hezbollah to fight on the side of Assad in Syria. What we're seeing now in Iraq is a spillover from the Syrian civil war. So I think it's foolhardy to count on the Iranians for anything. And at a time when we're negotiating with them over their nuclear program, I don't want them to have any leverage where they're expecting some kind of quid pro quo. If they help us, perhaps we'll be a little easier on them with the nuclear weapons discussions. My position is that Iran must never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, and I would not deal with the Iranians.
And sir, I also want to ask you about Khatallah, the Benghazi suspect now in custody. What do you make of the way that he's been treated so far? There have been a lot of questions about whether he's been Mirandized, what kind of rights he has. For now, we know he's being charged, and the plans are to try him in civilian court. Do you think that's the best course of action with respect to being able to get information from him at this point?
Well, I know they're interrogating him now, and I think when they're finished, they'll try him. I'm not afraid of a civilian court. Look, we're the United States of America. We're different than most countries. We have a rule of law. We've convicted other terrorists in civilian courts who have been convicted of life imprisonment with no sense of parole. The Christmas bomber, the shoe bomber, the Times Square bomber, the people who bombed the World Trade Center back in 1993, they were all convicted in civilian courts. They were all given life sentences with no parole. We're America. I'm not afraid of civilian courts.
All right. Congressman Eliot Engel, thank you, sir, for your time today.
Thank you.